The year was 1842. Charles Mason, a soldier in the British Indian military, an independent explorer and an archaeologist. When traveling through the vast plains of Sindh and Punjab, he stumbled upon a strange-looking monuments. Without knowing what it was, and he recorded them in his book of narratives of various journeys in Balochistan, Afghanistan and Punjab. Years passed by, and in 1900s, when Alexander Cunningham, along with ASI, that is Archaeological Survey of India, started conducting various major archaeological excavations throughout the country, in which some brilliant ancient architectures were discovered like Somanath, Mahabodhi, Sanchi Stupa. But one of the mind-bending discovery was that of Harappan civilization. This discovery shook the entire world, and the strange-looking structures and monuments Charles Mason stumbled upon were nothing but the remains of the ancient Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization is one of the oldest civilizations in India and one of the oldest urban civilizations in the world. This civilization came into existence near the bank of the river Indus. Thus, it is also called as Indus Valley Civilization. This civilization came into existence around 2600 BCE, which is approximately around 5500 years ago from now. But recent excavations and researchers reveal that this civilization might be at least 10 to 12,000 years ago. This civilization was one of the most urbanized and developed civilization in comparison to its contemporaries like Egypt and Mesopotamia. When there was barbarism in the world, Harappan civilization emerged out as the most urbanized civilization. Discovery of Harappan civilization is the phase of that history, the Indian history, which challenged the colonial oppressive system's cultural hegemony. That cultural hegemony which always preached the world only the West is civilized, East is uncivilized, barbaric and uncultured, which eventually led to the rise of white man's burden named ideology. And on this basis and on this ideology, the British have morally justified their 200 years of oppression and ruling over India. This attitude of West started to stutter and crumble with the discovery of Harappan civilization. This is the story of the Harappan civilization. I'm Praneeth Gidnandi, and welcome aboard for the Harappan World. Let's start. Geography and history of Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization spread across Punjab, Haryana, Sindh, Balochistan, Gujarat, Jammu Kashmir, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. With Mohenjo-daro and Harappa nearly 600 kilometers apart, it was immediately obvious that Harappan civilization was much more extensive than its contemporaries like Egypt's Old Kingdom in Mesopotamia, Sumeria. From Lothal, a southernmost tip, which is a small but important settlement in Gujarat, which may have been a port, to Shortagai, the northernmost tip in the mountains of Afghanistan, where Harappans probably obtained supplies of lapis lazuli. It is a distance of 1600 kilometers, and from Amalagirpur, the easternmost, from Upper Ganga to Shukta Gendor, which is westernmost cities of the Harappan civilization. Historians generally classify the Harappan civilization's history into four categories, which is pre-Harappan phase, early Harappan phase, mature Harappan phase and late Harappan phase. Let's discuss upon these stages or phases one by one. Pre-Harappan phase. In pre-Harappan phase, which is before 3300 BCE, during this stage, Harappans who were nomadic and hunters and gatherers started to make settlements and started practicing agriculture. Pre-Harappan people who had knowledge of the metals and access to the trade links. Early Harappan phase. In early Harappan phase, which spans from 3300 to 2600 BCE, during this time, tiny settlements started to emerge as villages and eventually leading to the urban towns. Mature Harappan phase. Mature Harappan phase is a very important phase which existed from 2600 to 1900 BCE. During this time, towns developed into cities and great cities flourished, in which makes Harappans urban. During this time, mercantilism was at its full peak. In mature Harappan phase, it appears that the full inventory of Harappan artifacts such as standardized bricks, pots, regular streets, about the network of well-made sewage ducts, typical terracottas, notable production of decorative artifacts including beads, shells, more copper and bronze and mysterious seals put to extensive use during this period of time. Late Harappan phase. In late Harappan phase, which spans from 1900 to 1200 BCE, is a time period when we can see the decline of Harappan civilization. There are many theories which are put forward for the decline of the Harappan civilization, but the slow desertification and abandonment of Harappan civilization was gradual and steady. This happened because of floods associated and salination of soil and drying of Gagarha river, commonly known as Saraswati river, which led to the abandonment and decline of the Harappan civilization. Culture and language of Harappan civilization. You might have seen Harappan seals and terracottas have an inscription of a god or an animal-like figure, which shows that Harappan civilization, the Harappan people had an element of god. On one of the ceilings, they have a depiction of a gentleman in yogic posture known as Pashupati. Pashupati may be indeed an early manifestation of Lord Shiva. The Harappan people worshipped natural elements like earth, fire, water, air, land, trees, which is even followed in Dharmic culture like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism. Like they believed and worshipped in God, Harappan people also believed and feared devils and demons. Harappans had a great taste of fashion. As their artifacts reveal, they might be the most stylish people at that time. Harappan language still remains a mystery as researchers and institutions are unable to decrypt the language. The Harappans might had centralized political system where the rule of law was followed. The presence of two separate areas in cities, Lower Town and the Citadel, shows that the elite must have been lived in Citadel and the commoners in the Lower Town. Infrastructure and economy of Harappan civilization. Harappan sites may seem unimpressive for those who are familiar with pyramids of Giza or who are a great fan of sculpted towers. But that's not the case though. Deep in the mound of a dead man, there was once activity and industry. Behind the extant wall, families lived, traders and vendors sold their wares. The lack of eye-catching monument and sculptures has something to do with the nature and the limited materials available to the city's builders. 4,000 years ago, stone was as scarce in the lower Indus region as it is still today. Because of the lack of the stone, the Harappans built their cities entirely of brick. Several hundred Harappan sites are known for their apparent similarity, overwhelming impressions of cultural uniformity, both throughout the several centuries during which the Harappan civilization flourished and over the vast area it occupied. The bricks, for instance, are all of standardized dimensions, just as stone cubes used by Harappans to measure weights are also standardized and based on a modular system. Road weights confirm similar module as well. Thus, city plans therefore confirm a regular grid pattern which date back to around 12,000 years ago from now. One apparent residential commercial, the Lower Town, and the other one is elevated and massive brick platform known as Citadel. The Citadel inevitably lay to the west of the town. The Harappan settlements were not just India's first towns and cities, but it is first indeed in the world's first planned cities and townships. Only public building which has been excavated till now is this so-called Great Bath, which is actually a temple pond which has the bituminized walls and a well to fill it with the fresh water and get rid of old water with a canal system. The underground sewer system is one of the most prominent inventions of the Harappans. Every home, every building had this piping and underground sewer system, and these things worked till date, and even to an extent where Harappans were the first one to invent septic tanks as well. Harappan ceilings and seals have been found in Sumerian sites, and Sumerian documentation makes a frequent reference of a relation with the distant land of Dilum, Magan and Moluhe, which looks like have been a Harappan civilization. Distribution of seals suggests that seals might facilitate exchange of goods over long distances or might actually act as a modern day barcode. Decline of Harappan civilization. As the Harappan civilization changed the course of Indian history, its decline raises several theories and myths, the famous one being the Aryan invasion myth. As the name itself suggests that it's a myth put forward by British to show Indians as inferior to them in every way possible. But the researchers reveal and science has something else to answer. The Harappan civilization's decline was not overnight, it was a gradual and a steady movement of people out of the Harappan civilization in a star formation. People got settled into Middle East, people got settled into Europe, people got settled into Ganga Yamuna plains. The driving factor for desertification and abandoning Harappan civilization is nothing but climate change. Yes. The monsoon in ancient India was very strong. This was so strong that it even fueled the river Saraswati, which is now known as Gagar-Hakra river, which is a seasonal river though. Because of this river and drying up of this river, salinification of the soil around this river. So this was a steady and a gradual movement of Harappan peoples outside of their civilization, and they got settled into this Ganga Yamuna plain, and they formed this Janapadas. Later it formed into Mahajanapadas. Later even gave birth to the greatest empire, that is Magadha, Guptas and all. So this is the story of the Harappan civilization, and thank you for watching. This is Praneeth Gidnandi, and I will be back again with one more interesting episode. Stay tuned. Thank you and Jai Hind.